I'm Dwight Drummond. Tonight, some Ontarians can now download their QR code vaccine certificate.
Starting today, individuals born in January, February, March, and April can log on to Ontario's vaccine portal to download their enhanced certificate.
Details on how the system will work, when the QR codes will be in use, and the options for those who aren't using the code. Plus,
very frustrating because you know that the customer who enters that store, it's a potential customer that can be yours.
a legal pot shop owner says he's losing business to an illegal cannabis store just steps away. He's putting the blame for that on lax enforcement by the city of Toronto. And
that's disgusting.
Is that steering?
Yes, of course that is.
Some agents may be very cognizant of what they're getting paid and push their buyer to another home.
a story you won't want to miss if you're in the market for a new home. CBC Marketplace goes undercover and finds real estate agents steering clients away from a low-commission property. The province unveiling its new QR code proof of vaccination system today. The first phase of the rollout is now underway. Next Friday, you'll be able to show your code and have it verified before going into places such as a restaurant or a gym. Lorena Redekop now with more details.
People can download their QR code by going to the province's website. So far, it's available for anyone who has a birthday from January to April, with the rollout continuing over the next few days. Meanwhile, businesses download the Verify Ontario app. It checks the code, and green means go.
They mean we have the best chance to avoid being forced back into lockdowns that nobody wants.
The government says it partnered with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, which owns pro sports teams and stadiums. Facilities allowed to open at 100% capacity as of last weekend. The Premier denies they got a deal because of their partnership.
I'll tell you right now, absolutely not. That's a 100%.
MLSE also says that's not the case, that it received no payment for this, and that it has the largest digital operation in professional sports anywhere in the world. MLSE says with the new QR code and app at its facilities, scanning will take 10 to 15 seconds, compared to up to a minute with the current system. But the app cannot process medical exemptions.
And the app, as we shockingly heard, still falls short because it doesn't provide an opportunity for people to have the exemptions identified in the QR code. That's something that Quebec was able to do. I don't know why Ontario was not able to do the same.
The health minister says that could be coming.
Well, the issue really is that we can only put information into the QR code that's already in the COVAX system, and the medical exemptions aren't in the COVAX system yet.
A group of volunteers came up with their own QR code in advance of this one by the province. Now they say they're revamping and will still have an Apple Wallet version to try to work together with the province's system.
So rather than having to worry about the PDF or screenshotting it, you can just import the code and then show the code very quickly. I have the Ontario QR code. I import that into one of our cards and I use Verify Ontario and beep, scan screen.
The original paper or electronic version can still be used, meaning at least for now, two systems will be in place. The app and QR code officially launch next Friday. Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
The Premier also talking about vaccine mandates for healthcare workers today. Doug Ford says his government will move cautiously on the issue. Fearful hospitals could end up facing staffing shortages. There were also more questions today about capacity limits and the restrictions that bars and restaurants are still facing. Chris Glover now with that part of the story.
And I'll tell you what happened last Friday. We had a consensus.
Premier Doug Ford responding for the first time to the controversial decision last Friday, allowing sport and concert venues to operate at full tilt the next morning, while restaurants and gyms remain restricted to 50% capacity.
We're going to get to the restaurants, and I'm not going to rush it, because anything you do in this pandemic, you rush it, it can come back and backfire on you.
He pointed to the disaster in Alberta, where COVID restrictions were removed and the hospital system couldn't handle the surge that followed.
If the intention is slow and cautious, why doesn't slow and cautious also apply to some big businesses like large sporting venues?
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says the unfairness is insulting, especially with the chief medical officer saying he wants 2 weeks of data following Thanksgiving before making any moves.
To hear someone say that 14 days is not a long time frame tells me that you haven't walked a COVID mile in a small business owner's shoes. Every day counts for small business owners.
Sports arenas were chosen first, partly since they offer better ventilation than restaurants.
I would ask that our business partners stay tuned. We'll provide dates and timelines and data by which we anticipate further opening of the economy.
Key to next week's plan is getting more people vaccinated. While many Ontario hospitals have mandatory vaccination requirements for staff, the Premier says forcing the remaining 15% to get the shot or get a pink slip would lead to tens of thousands of fewer staff members at a critical time.
It's easy to go out there and say, fire everyone. That's an easy solution. People have to look at the ramifications down the road.
The Premier sent a letter to hospital CEOs and health organizations for their take on mandating vaccines for health workers.
The Premier is dancing around yet again on this issue.
The Registered Nurses Association of Ontario says it would make patients safer and keep employees worried about working alongside the unvaccinated on the job.
And if now he backtracks and says, oh, you know what, everybody has your choice and it's not so much needed, that will backfire hugely.
Next week's plan will be for the next 3 to 6 months, clearly an attempt to avoid catching people off guard like they did last Friday. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Starting early next month, Canadians and travelers from other countries who are fully vaccinated will be allowed into the United States by land, water, as well as by air. Susanna De Silva has more details now from Washington.
Starting November 8th, Canadians will be able to cross the land border into the United States for non-essential reasons, as long as they're prepared to provide proof that they are fully vaccinated. Upon request, they are not required to provide a negative COVID-19 test. Essential workers into the United States will also, starting in January, need to be able to provide that proof of vaccination. Now, if you're an air traveler, until now, you've been able to come into the U.S. with a negative COVID-19 test. Starting November 8th, you'll be required to have that test as well as proof of vaccination. There are still some questions in terms of how the process is going to work, what will be acceptable proof of vaccination, but officials here saying those details are still to come. Also still a question, mixed doses, something that is not allowed in the United States right now. There is a committee that has heard some information along those lines, but no decisions have been made at this point, though the official with the White House told us today that the CDC recognizes it's important and expects to have some guidance soon. Now, there are also some questions, and there have been calls for Canadian officials to relax the rule to have a negative COVID-19 test in order to return to Canada. But officials say that is still an added layer of protection.
If you look at the volumes of people increasing coming to Canada as a percentage, the actual true number of people coming would obviously potentially be increasing as well. So I think that right now it's certainly another layer of protection. It's something that is in place at the moment, and we continue to look at the evidence. But as we've said before, that there's no sort of a system that's foolproof.
Though Canadians who plan to head down just for a day trip can get a negative COVID-19 test in Canada as long as they return within 72 hours of that test. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Washington.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has a busy few weeks ahead of him. His new cabinet is scheduled to be sworn in later this month, and Parliament is set to resume next month. Between now and then, the PM will be crisscrossing the country and the globe as he lays the groundwork for an ambitious agenda. Travis Danraj now with details.
On a cloudy and gray Friday in Ottawa, Parliament Hill was quiet. That is set to change in the coming weeks. News today, Justin Trudeau's new cabinet will be sworn in on October 26th. Nearly a month later, Parliament will return on the 22nd of November.
So many people are dealing with huge crises, and yet the idea that we would wait more than 2 months just doesn't make sense to me. And as I say, it's simply irresponsible.
Before MPs return, the Prime Minister has a flurry of events scheduled. Monday, he'll travel to Kamloops to meet with First Nations leaders in that community after skipping an invite to attend a ceremony on the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, instead opting to vacation on a beach in Tofino.
Traveling on September 30th was a mistake, and I regret it.
Then, later this month, Trudeau is expected to travel to Rome and Glasgow to attend the G20 and UN climate change conferences.
A lot of the economic challenges, it's not Canada alone that's facing them, same with climate. It is an international effort, so the Prime Minister definitely needs to be there and continue taking that leadership role.
Beyond climate, in the first 100 days, the Liberals are expected to push an ambitious agenda on everything from legislation to ban conversion therapy to 10 paid sick days for federal workers, getting a deal done on childcare with holdout provinces like Ontario, and priority number one, further COVID supports, some of which are set to expire later this month.
The fourth wave and the Delta variant are hitting parts of the country particularly hard. And we know that government policy very much needs to be mindful of that.
Facing another minority parliament, Trudeau will have to work with opposition parties to move his priorities forward. Next week, he'll be reaching out to leaders on the phone to discuss just that. Travis Danraj, CBC News, Ottawa.
To quote Phil Collins, Colette, we can feel it in the air tonight. Heading back to seasonal.
Yes, yes, things are changing. Not only, can you feel it in the air in terms of kind of cooling down a little bit, but also the activity we have with some thunderstorms here in, mid-October. So all the areas that you see in green here, that's about the special weather statement and the amounts of rain, although now it's looking like a lot of that is going to stay south of the lower Great Lakes. So say around the Niagara region, you may get clipped a little harder, and eastern Ontario. So I actually think Toronto may end up on the low end of that. But what we also have here, severe thunderstorm warning and a severe thunderstorm watch that's in play. Earlier, it started out over the water. We had a marine warning for a tornado warning. Now that has been tracking on land. That's what's going on with some of the activity into the Niagara region. But we're also looking at these very strong storms here. So towards East Elgin County, around St. Thomas, towards Tillsonburg, through there, Oxford County into Woodstock, all through this region. And it's kind of headed towards Cambridge and Brantford, some of the heavier rain. So some really heavy downpours here. That's why locally some will see more significant amounts of rain as this carries on overnight into tomorrow morning. Current temperatures knocked down in southwestern Ontario, so has the humidity. It's all still there to the east. So once the system passes, it kind of takes everything down with it. So are you feeling it in the air tonight? Yeah, our temperature's going back to the mid-teens. That's what we're looking at for now, Dwight.
Welcome to the fall. This weekend will mark the 3rd anniversary of legal pot in Canada. Since then, legal cannabis stores have popped up in neighborhoods across the city. But not all business owners are turning green into gold. As the CBC's John Lancaster reports, one owner says the city's failure to clamp down on a nearby illegal pot shop is costing people like him money.
So, Levon, you're right here.
Yes, right.
Levon Castanian says it took him a year and $25,000 in permits and licenses to open his Lagoo Cannabis store on Harbord Street. 2 doors over, though, Cafe, an illegal pot shop, sells cheaper, unregulated marijuana, he says, and he's losing business because of it.
I'm very frustrating because you know that the customer who enters that store, it's a potential customer that can be yours.
Castanian says the city's lack of enforcement on illegal pot shops is harming legal ones.
Understand his frustration.
Carlton Grant is Toronto's executive director of municipal licensing and standards. He says the city and police have tried to close cafes for locations repeatedly. The company and its operators have been charged for allegedly operating illegally under the Cannabis Control Act. Officials have gone so far as to barricade its doors with cement blocks. Despite facing possible fines in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, Cafe continues to operate. The charges are winding their way through the courts. Grant says the city can't do much more to stop Cafe.
We've gotten to a point where we need to rely on the court process to deal with this.
That could take months, even years. Selling pot without a license is still a criminal offense in Canada.
Why they're not going back to put more barricades on or further take enforcement steps, I can't say.
According to this lawyer, authorities could do more to tackle illegal pot shops.
I don't think they have maxed out their efforts. They simply may be choosing not to.
From my perspective,
Castagnan agrees.
I think it's City of Toronto that they need to take an action and to see why there is a legal store that has all the licenses, that has all the products that are meeting Health Canada regulations, and there is a store next door that doesn't have any license.
He says he's been playing by the rules, but is losing out to a neighbor who didn't. John Lancaster, CBC News, Toronto.
A CBC Marketplace investigation reveals a worrying practice that affects both those looking to buy a home and those hoping to sell theirs. It found some real estate agents are breaking the law by steering unwitting buyers away from low-commission homes. Using hidden cameras, the team went undercover to uncover some of this behavior. David Common tells us what happened.
Joanne Petit is selling her house, but doesn't want to pay the 5% commission real estate agents expect. That's about $75,000. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
So she's selling privately. But will agents representing buyers still come when the payday is smaller? Joanne is still offering buyer agents 1% of the sale, about $14,000. She's been warned by other agents they won't come.
Were you left with the impression that your house was almost blacklisted?
Absolutely. That's how it was referred to me.
So we're posing as undercover buyers, asking agents to show us Joanne's house.
I've been trying to reach them to see, what's the problem.
The first agent tells us she can't reach Joanne.
I haven't heard back from them.
Joanne says that's not true.
We never received a call.
She told us she called.
She
called and left a message.
No message was left.
That's disgusting.
Is that steering?
Yes, of course that is.
Real estate lawyer Lisa Laredo says steering away from a low-commission home is illegal.
It's in absolute contravention of the Code of Ethics.
On to another agent.
The home is $200,000 overpriced. Do you want to go and see it?
The price is consistent with similar houses in the area. Besides, that agent tells Joanne a different story.
When we told her there would only be a 1% commission, she said, I'll keep my clients to myself.
When Marketplace reached out to the agents who steered, both denied doing so. But it doesn't appear to be isolated.
Some agents may be very cognizant of what they're getting paid and push their buyer to another home.
We called agents across Canada. Many told us steering happens all the time.
It's not right and it's not ever supposed to happen, but it does happen.
RICO, the real estate regulator in Ontario, calls all this troubling. They wouldn't talk to us on camera, but did send a bulletin to agents warning them steering is illegal and that it must stop. David Common, CBC News, Vaughan, Ontario.
Tune in tonight to see Marketplace expose real estate secrets and see more of what happens when the team goes undercover as home buyers and sellers. That's at 8 p.m. on CBC Television and, of course, anytime on CBC Gem. September home sales in Canada were down notably from their record-setting levels a year ago, but there are signs they could be creeping up again. And as the numbers climb, so do home prices, triggering more concerns about affordability. Nisha Patel has more.
Isabel Serrano can't help but feel priced out.
$900,000. I really thought it was going to be easy to find something for that much money, but it's really not.
After visiting more than 40 properties and losing out on multiple offers, she's not sure her budget can stretch any further.
I think it's very frustrating. It's really sad to find something that you like and then not even to get close.
After the housing market hit a frenzied peak in March, sales had been slower for about 6 months. Now they're picking up again, while prices continue to march higher, up an average of 14% in the past year.
There's still some fear of a missing out behavior that's stoking demand and pulling forward demand for purchasers that would have been bought later on.
There are other factors driving demand: low interest rates, households funneling their savings into down payments. Investor activity has also picked up. Economists say it adds up to a challenging market for homebuyers.
So absent some sort of unforeseen economic shock or something like that, it's likely that affordability could erode even further.
Some regions are hotter than others. Price gains in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba were up just single digits, while housing in New Brunswick jumped a stunning 31% compared to the year before. with many house hunters taking their bids to cities where they get more bang for their buck, something Serrano isn't ready for yet.
I really don't want to be driving 2 hours or 3 hours a day. This is where my job is. This is where my husband's job is. So I can't move out of the city.
Still, with more Canadian homebuyers out this fall, competition will be stiff, and their calls to improve affordability will likely grow louder. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
British police say counter-terrorism officers are leading the investigation into the murder of a member of parliament. Sir David Emmis was stabbed to death today at a church near London.
We made it clear at the time of the incident that we did not believe there was any immediate further threat to anyone else in the area. It will be for investigators to determine whether or not this is a terrorist incident. But as always, they will keep an open mind.
The 69-year-old Emmis was attacked and killed during a meeting with constituents. A 25-year-old man was arrested at the scene and a knife has been recovered. Police gave no immediate details on the motive for the killing of the long-serving MP. The attack came 5 years after Labour Party MP Jo Cox was murdered by a far-right extremist in her small-town constituency office. Suicide bombers have attacked another Shia mosque packed with worshippers in southern Afghanistan. The militant group ISIS is claiming responsibility for the bombing that left at least 47 people dead and 70 others wounded. It's the latest attack on the nation's Shia minority, which has been a frequent target for the militant group ISIS. Susan Ormiston with more now from Doha, Qatar.
For the second straight week, at Friday prayers, a suicide attack on a Shia mosque. This time in Kandahar, the Taliban heartland. The mosque was full. Local reports suggest one suicide bomber blew himself up outside the mosque and another one attacked inside. Cell phone video shows the carpeted floor, bloodstained, bodies stretched out. The Mirwaz hospital in Kandahar overwhelmed, calling for blood donations and help with the injured. Bringing stability to Afghanistan was one of the Taliban's promises when it took control of the country 2 months ago. But a string of bombings in the last few weeks have left Afghans anxious about the near future. Exactly a week ago, another massive blast at a Shia mosque in Kunduz in the north killed more than 60 people. ISIS-K claimed responsibility, continuing a deadly pattern of targeting minority Muslims. A third bomb detonated outside a mosque in Kabul nearly 2 weeks ago led to a raid on a sleeper cell inside the capital city. Still, last week in Doha, in the first talks with U.S. representatives since the takeover, leaders said they did not want or need American interventions to hunt down extremist groups inside the country. Meanwhile, 350 more Afghan refugees are in Doha tonight. They were evacuated last evening from Kabul, among them young women soccer players who are coming to Canada. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Doha.
A Toronto man is honoring his mother by bringing joy to a long-term care home.
There's so much divide in the world right now. It's about togetherness, kindness.
We'll tell you why he's so passionate about making residents and staff feel good coming up. A man is dead after a fire in a Scarborough basement apartment this morning.
The heat was quite intense, and during their source for the seat of the fire and their primary search for victims, unfortunately they did find one male victim that they were able to quickly take to the outside of the building, but the victim was pronounced dead here on scene.
The fire broke out in the Pharmacy Road apartment unit just before 10 a.m. Toronto Fire have confirmed that the man was 35 years old but have not released his identity. The Ontario Fire Marshal has now launched an investigation to figure out how this blaze started. And one man has died and another injured after a rollover crash in Etobicoke. It happened near Burnham Thorpe and Martin Grove just after noon today. A car flipped, ejecting one of its occupants. One man was pronounced dead at the scene. Paramedics took another man to hospital with unknown injuries. Investigators would like to hear from anyone with information or dashcam video from the area around the time of the crash. Investigators with Durham Police are concerned tonight about a missing mother and daughter. Police were called to a Whitby residence yesterday afternoon and say there are suspicious circumstances surrounding this disappearance. Jessica Ng joins us live from the home near Taunton and Thornton Roads in Whitby. What's the latest there, Jessica?
Well, Dwight, forensic officers have just secured a search warrant to enter the home behind me on Scepter Place. They responded to a wellness check around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, just before 3 o'clock actually yesterday afternoon. And they say the call came from a family member of 58-year-old Ava Burton and 85-year-old Tilda Noble, a mother and daughter who are currently missing.
Officers did check the residence behind me on Scepter Place with negative results for the two females. However, there was evidence of something suspicious within that residence. So we have secured the residence, and we are waiting for a search warrant.
Now, that was earlier. Now, again, police have now secured that search warrant, and they haven't ruled out foul play, and they're declining to say exactly what's making them consider these disappearances suspicious. They're still trying to figure out precisely when the duo went missing. Neighbors tell us the daughter, Ava, is friendly and always waves to others from her veranda. We spoke to her neighbor, Lynette, who says she is in regular contact with her, but hasn't heard from her since Saturday.
I sent her this morning message. I sent her a song. I sent her that. But in between there now, yesterday, I got a little bit worried because I said Thursday and I haven't heard from her.
Investigators ask anyone who may have had recent contact with either Ava or Tilda to come forward. They're also asking residents to take a look at their dash cam footage as well as their home surveillance footage in hopes of finding more clues leading up to the days of the duo's disappearance. Dwight.
Yeah, I know they've been waiting for that search warrant. Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
The TTC announced today it is pushing back the deadline it has imposed on employees to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Workers who are unvaccinated or who have not shared their vaccination status by November 20th will be placed on unpaid leave until they get their shots, while unvaccinated employees who don't comply by December 31st will be fired. And a Etobicoke school has closed temporarily due to an ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. Toronto Public Health says they have identified 10 COVID-19 cases at Greenholme Junior Middle School. Students were dismissed as a precautionary measure to prevent any more spread. Public Health says it will continue to work with the school to determine when in-person learning will resume. The city's latest vaccine campaign, Shop and Vax 2.0, will have 24 immunization clinics at malls and pharmacies across the city this weekend. The vaccine strategy aims to continue removing barriers and bringing vaccines to residents in areas with low uptake. Appointments are not required. The campaign wraps up at midnight on Sunday. A Toronto man says he's honoring his mother by brightening the day of seniors and honoring staff at a Scarborough long-term care home. Sonny Von Tosh's mother died there before the pandemic in a long-term care facility. Nally Kalata now shares his story.
Today, Sonny Von Tosh is spreading as much joy as he can for the residents and staff of the Tony Stacey Center for Veterans Care.
You're beautiful. You're welcome. I love your hair. There's so much divide in the world right now. It's about togetherness, kindness.
At a time when many here can use it.
We have to remember that a lot of them have not been able to go out for the last year and a half, and they haven't had family that's been able to visit. I think it's nice for them to know that that connection is still there, that they're still a part of society, that people still think of them.
Today is an act of great love born from the deepest sorrow. CBC first interviewed Tosh after hitting camera video at a different long-term care home in 2017 showed his mother experiencing rough care and abuse. She was transferred to a new facility and died 2 years later.
Sharing love is justice. I'm doing justice. This is what my mom would have wanted.
Tosh raised $4,000 to make today happen, arranging gift bags for residents, balloons, and food.
There is people that care, and even though those PSWs, they did us wrong, they harmed my mother, but hey, these PSWs didn't, and so it's about forgiveness and growing.
Helping to also heal his heart along the way.
Thank you.
Natalie Kalata, CBC News, Toronto.
82-year-old Canadian runner Keo Tyversalo competed in this year's Boston Marathon, finishing with a time of 4 hours, 10 minutes, and 23 seconds. This was his fourth Boston Marathon run. He's finished with the fastest time for runners over 80 years old, his second straight over 80 title.
Say the word again for me.
Sisu, S-I-S-U, Sisu. It's a Finnish word and really helps me many tough places, you know.
And it basically means don't give up?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's, I had to say Sisu there. My name is Keijo Taivasalo, and I just ran the Boston Marathon. On my age group is 80, and I happened to win. Starting line, you are a little bit not nervous. This time I really take it, I wasn't really nervous at all. I was taking it really easy. The first 10K, well, according to my training schedule that I can do around 4 hours. And I try to keep that space all the way to the finish line.
You fell?
Yeah, I fell. Yeah, I went like this, but no opening here, only my
How long did it take you to get up?
guys, they lift me up. I didn't have a chance to try to myself, but they lifted me up and they said, now you walk. I said, I have no time to walk, you know, because so I took off. I said, bye guys.
So you actually have to take a step back and realize, wow, like it's pretty special. When he runs Boston, and you know, this year was so hard to get him there, that when he started that race, like we were all getting all emotional. Those of us that couldn't be there, and my sister who was there, she was so lucky sending us pictures and videos of you running, and it was just, that was the best feeling we could have ever had to get him there. We know if he's there, he's stubborn, he'll finish, because that's what he does. 2019, when he set the record, was incredible. This year I thought was a little bit even more special, which is hard to say, but you know, 2 years champion, I can't, you know, he's dad. That's who he is.
Do you have a secret?
There's no secret. Just hard work, yeah. Just hard training and sleep too. Sleep is very important. That's, you know, that, yeah, there's no secret, just hard work.
Wow, 82, I need to see a birth certificate. Toronto police are advising drivers to prepare for delays and find alternative routes ahead of the Scotiabank Waterfront 10K Marathon. It's happening this Sunday. Lakeshore Boulevard West will be closed east and westbound from Bathurst to Windermere from 4 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. And I quoted Phil Collins before when I should have been quoting, like, maybe Singing in the Rain or something like that. Because they're going to be running in the rain this Sunday, it sounds like, Colin.
Yeah, well, we need to look at something positive. So, yeah, we'll go with Gene Kelly. He had a positive attitude as the rain was coming down, right? Yes, even Sunday we have a chance for some showers, but it'll be much lighter and spottier in nature. So it'll be a little bit better looking there. Let me just show you your headlines then. We know we have the special weather statement for the amounts, although more and more it's looking like those heavier amounts of rain will be in eastern Ontario and perhaps the Niagara region, as we have some embedded thunderstorms kind of rolling through right now. We are going to see our temperatures reset closer to seasonal, but the silver lining there is that it will be somewhat short-lived, because by midweek next week, maybe even a tiny bit earlier, we're going to see those temperatures turning around and going above seasonal once again. You can kind of see how the system has worked its way in along the north shores of Lake Erie, and so those temperatures are down from where they are over into eastern Ontario, where it's still got to make its way, but it is a-coming. So there we have, I've got the lightning strikes on here so you can see where some of the heavier locally those downpours are with some of these embedded thunderstorms. Earlier this afternoon, quite strong, we had a tornado warning, a marine one that was issued, so it was out over the eastern section of Lake Erie, and then as these storms have come on land again, then we get into a situation where we're looking at severe thunderstorm warnings here, and this associated with what was out there earlier today, so that's a severe thunderstorm watch. So yes, we can have this kind of active weather even though we're into mid-October. You can see some of those cells that have been pushing right through between Niagara and Buffalo, but into Norfolk County. But look at the projection here, headed towards the GTA, right? So we're going to be seeing this coming into Milton Milton and Brampton, through that region into Hamilton. Certainly it's on your doorstep and moving in. Oakville, Mississauga, all coming along and then reaching Toronto. And yes, clipping towards the north sections as well. So this activity isn't just coming through and then done. It's going to carry on in waves overnight tonight. We'll have some breaks, but into tomorrow morning, some of it quite heavy at times, and then getting into some breezy conditions behind the system tomorrow. Now, into the afternoon, this model's pretty optimistic and giving us some sunny breaks and just a few isolated showers. We may still have a pretty thick cloud deck in some cases, but it will begin to break up. And then Sunday, it's a lake effect that we're dealing with. Colder air pushing over the lakes, which are still relatively warmer at this time of year, and that's why it'll be spottier, but we are going to see a few showers on Sunday. It's definitely going to be the better day. So see how those rainfall amounts have kind of come down from where they were locally. Where you get into one of these storms, you'll definitely get some heavier downpours, but it's really just kind of south of the lower Great Lakes and then into eastern Ontario. Kingston, Ottawa, Brockville, Cornwall, some heavier amounts there. Thunder, yep, lightning, we've got it coming through. And then into tomorrow, those temperatures, now those daytime highs are looking like what our overnight lows have been looking like. And we're going to have to see some single digits and some cooler starts to the day at the bus stop or that walk to school. A little cooler than it has been, Dwight.
This weekend, going to finally put the summer clothing away. Thank you, Colin.
Okay, well, not too fast, but all right.
You never know with Canada. Thanks,
That's
Colin.
right.
New research suggests schoolyards across Ontario lack the necessities to encourage kids to get active and connect with nature.
There's a body of research that says schoolyards, good quality schoolyards, actually lead to students being more physically active.
Makes sense. The study audited more than 200 schoolyards, scoring on criteria like amenities, environment, and active transportation. 73% scored poorly. The province says it provides school boards with $1.4 billion a year to repair buildings and yards. But the Toronto Public and Catholic School Boards say improvements are on the way and outdoor learning is a priority. As we head to break, let's take a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX closed up by 108 points. The Dow also climbing by 382 points. Our Canadian dollar traded lower at 80.78 cents US. Stay with us. We're coming right back. I think it's too soon, but anyway. British toy store Hamleys has unveiled the list of top 10 toys for Christmas 2021. The retail chain's theme for this year is families getting back together.
Essentially, we had a really tough time last year. We were all separated from each other. A lot of time was spent on screens, speaking to each other through screens. It just wasn't the same. So this year, it's all about getting family and friends back together.
Okay, many British families couldn't celebrate together last year, of course, because of the COVID-19 lockdowns. Favorites with children visiting the store include huggables, soft toys, remote-controlled race cars, Nerf blaster guns, and of course, the old standbys, Lego and Playmobil. Another is the traditional board game of snakes and ladders, so parents and grandparents, time to start making those lists and checking them twice. You know, my kids are too old to get presents, call it. My Jolie turns 15 on Sunday and nothing. I haven't bought a thing, sorry.
No, but you will. I know you will.
Yeah, whatever.
Not too old.
Yeah.
Those girls aren't too old. Never. They're your daughters. Let's just have a look at what's going on here with this kind of change up that we are getting in our weather. So changing, yeah, the temperatures, but really juicy system coming in here. It's got the remnants of a hurricane with it. So just the moisture, I mean. And that's why we're seeing some of these amounts could be heavier, over 50 millimeters. It's looking more and more, though, like that's going to be kind of south, sort of tagging the Niagara region and into eastern Ontario. That being said, with some of these heavier downpours, with some embedded thunderstorms as these waves make their way through, locally there'll certainly be some spots picking some of that up. Severe thunderstorm warning still in play and a severe thunderstorm watch into the Niagara region that I was talking about earlier. So right now, you do need to heed that. Overnight tonight, 15. And what's this tomorrow? Only 15? Yeah, very little change there in the temperature. It might go up or down a degree or so, but basically mid-teens and then into single digits for our overnights.
Have a nice wet weekend, Colin.
Thanks. You too, Dwight.
Thank you. That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Kelda Yoon has your next local news tonight at 11, right after the National. We will see you back here on Monday. Have a great night and stay safe, everybody.